You didn't choose to open this. Not really. Something chose for you, and you followed it the way you always follow it, the way everyone does, without noticing, without questioning, the way water finds a crack in concrete without making a decision about it. You clicked. You're here. And the fact that you don't know exactly why is the most important thing about this moment. This is the kind of content most people scroll past because they assume they already understand it. They don't. And if you're someone who thinks about how your own mind works, stick around because what comes next is going to change the way you experience every screen you look at for the rest of your life. This is Anik Pov, and we're going somewhere uncomfortable today. Let's start with something small, something ordinary, a thumbnail. It's the first thing you saw. Maybe it had a face on it, a specific expression, not happy, not sad, something in between, something that looked like it was about to say something important. Maybe there was a color, a shade of red or orange that your eye pulled toward before your brain could intervene. Maybe there was a number in a circle, a question, an ellipsis, and before any conscious thought occurred, your finger was already moving. That's not an accident. That thumbnail was tested, probably against 4 or 5 other versions. Split tested across 10,000 impressions in the first 3 hours of being live. Every element, the font, the color saturation, the angle of the face, the presence or absence of text, all of it optimized against one single metric, your click-through rate. The science behind it isn't new. It's the same science casinos use to design their floors, the same science grocery stores use to decide where to put the milk, the same science that tells political campaigns which images of a candidate activate trust responses versus fear responses in different zip codes. You just happen to be the subject of the experiment, not the scientist. Here's where it gets complicated. You've probably heard this before. The algorithm, engagement optimization, attention economy. These aren't secret anymore. They've been covered in documentaries, congressional hearings, best-selling books. You know the machine exists. You can name the machine, and yet here you are, inside it, watching it, which means knowing about the machine and escaping the machine are two entirely different things. This is what the researchers call the third-person effect. You understand that media manipulates people. You just don't believe it manipulates you. The other people, sure. The ones who share misinformation, the ones who spend 6 hours doom scrolling, the ones who bought something they didn't need from an ad they saw 17 times. Not you. You're watching this with awareness. You're different. That belief, specifically that belief, is one of the most powerful tools the machine has. Let's go back to the click. You're on a platform, doesn't matter which one. They all work the same way at the level that matters. Your behavior is being recorded in real time with a precision that would have seemed like science fiction in 2005. Not just what you click, not just what you watch, how long you hover before clicking, where on the screen your thumb lingers, the speed of your scrolling when it slows, which means something caught your subconscious attention even if you kept scrolling past, the time between when a video ends and when you reach for the next one, the exact moment you exit. That last one is important. If you leave at 47 seconds, the algorithm notes what happened at 47 seconds in thousands of other sessions and starts predicting the kind of content that would have made you stay to 48. This isn't surveillance in the way people imagine it. There's no one watching you specifically. It's more unsettling than that. It's pattern recognition at scale, applied to you as an instance of human behavior rather than a person. You are a data point in a model that is trying to solve a single equation. What content maximizes the probability that you do not stop watching? Not content that makes you happy, not content that makes you informed, not content that improves your life. Content that prevents you from stopping, and you thought you were just watching a video. Here's what that optimization actually does to content over time. It selects for certain emotional triggers with the cold efficiency of natural selection. Outrage outperforms agreement. Anxiety outperforms contentment. Mystery outperforms resolution. Content that leaves you slightly unsatisfied, that makes you feel like you almost got something, that hints at answers without fully delivering them. That content performs extraordinarily well because it puts you in a seeking state. And a seeking state is a watching state. This is why conspiracy content spread faster than debunking content on every platform that tried to stop it. Not because people are stupid, because the structure of conspiracy content, the constant "they don't want you to know this," the endless promised revelation that never fully arrives, the feeling that you're close to uncovering something real, that structure is perfectly shaped to exploit a seeking brain. You were born with a seeking brain. You can't help it. 100,000 years ago, the brains that kept seeking, kept scanning for patterns, kept looking for the next sign of food or predator or shelter, those brains survived. The ones that said, "I've seen enough, I'm satisfied," got eaten. You are descended from the seekers. Every person alive is. And that evolutionary advantage is now being monetized against you at approximately 60 frames per second. The first time you really notice this, if you notice it, is usually a strange moment. You're watching something and you realize you don't remember the last 4 minutes. Not because you were distracted, because you were so absorbed that conscious thought stopped running. Researchers have a term for this state. They call it flow when it happens with meaningful work. When it happens in front of a screen with content designed to induce it, it doesn't have a flattering name. Your brain in this state is not passive. It's hyperactive. It's processing at high speed, pattern matching, anticipating, releasing small hits of dopamine at predicted intervals. The feeling isn't vacant. It feels like engagement. It feels like interest. It feels sometimes like you're learning something. The neurological experience of being expertly manipulated and the neurological experience of genuine curiosity feel nearly identical from the inside. This is the part where it gets uncomfortable. You've had experiences that felt meaningful that you got from screens, conversations you had because of things you watched, ideas that changed how you think, emotions that felt real. And some of those experiences probably were real. The content wasn't always designed to manipulate. Sometimes things are genuinely good. Sometimes algorithms accidentally recommend something that matters. Sometimes the machine produces something true because truth, it turns out, can also keep people watching. But you can't tell reliably which is which, not in real time, not from the inside. The emotional response to a piece of content that's expertly designed to make you feel enlightened is functionally identical to the emotional response to actually being enlightened. Your brain doesn't have a sensor for that. It can't distinguish between the hit of dopamine that comes from genuine insight and the hit that comes from the feeling of insight manufactured by someone who studied how to create that feeling. That's not a flaw in you, it's a flaw in the situation. Here's what the people who build these systems actually know, drawn from internal research that has, in some cases, been leaked, published, or testified about under oath. They know that certain content forms create compulsive patterns of use that users describe afterward as not what they wanted to do. They know that content that triggers social comparison, specifically content that makes you feel slightly inadequate in ways that are fixable through further consumption, creates longer session times than content that makes you feel good. They know that rage and anxiety are stickier than calm and satisfaction by margins that are not close. They also know that if they optimize purely for user-reported well-being, for what people say they want to watch, session times would drop significantly. So they don't. They optimize for engagement. Those two things are not the same. You probably knew most of that. Here's what you might not have considered. You have spent years, possibly more than a decade, having your preferences shaped by this system. Not just your content preferences, your aesthetic preferences, your informational preferences, your emotional baseline. What feels normal to you? What pace of information delivery feels right? What level of emotional intensity feels engaging versus boring? All of that has been calibrated by repeated exposure to content that was designed to maximize your engagement rather than your well-being. You didn't notice it happening because it happened gradually. The same way you don't notice a child growing taller because you see them every day. Someone who knew you 15 years ago and hasn't seen you since would notice things you can't. This is not a small thing. The content diet you've been on has shaped your capacity for sustained attention in ways that are measurable. Studies conducted across multiple universities consistently show that people who consume high-stimulation, short-form content show diminished capacity for sustained attention on low-stimulation tasks, including reading long documents, sitting with a difficult problem, tolerating uncertainty without immediately seeking resolution. These aren't character flaws. They're the predictable neurological consequences of repeated exposure to content designed to keep you in a state of constant low-level arousal. The researchers call it the cost of the attention economy. You're paying it. You just didn't get an invoice. Now, here's the thing that most of these conversations skip, because most of these conversations are themselves products of the machine, designed to be outrage-inducing and shareable and emotionally satisfying in ways that don't actually require you to do anything. You can't opt out, not fully. The economic and social infrastructure of modern life runs through these systems now. Your job probably uses them. Your relationships partly exist through them. The news, even the news you get from traditionally reputable outlets, is now formatted for and distributed through platforms that optimize for engagement. There is no clean outside. There is no version of contemporary life where you get to simply choose differently. What you can do is something more specific and more difficult than opting out. You can learn to notice the seeking state while you're in it, not after, during. The moment when you realize you've lost track of time and your thumb is moving without conscious direction. The moment when you feel compelled to click something and you can't articulate exactly why, except that you need to know what's there. The moment when you close an app and open it again within 30 seconds because the absence of stimulation feels like something's wrong. That noticing is a skill. It has to be practiced because the systems you're using are specifically designed to prevent it. The design choices, the infinite scroll, the autoplay, the absence of natural stopping points, the notifications calibrated to arrive at moments of lower engagement, all of it is constructed to keep you in the state and prevent you from surfacing into awareness. You have a brain that was built to seek patterns at the edge of the firelight. They built a fire you can never walk away from, and they charged advertisers to put things in it. Here's the final piece, and this is the one that sits with people longest. You didn't open this video by accident, but neither did you open it by fully free choice. You opened it because an algorithm, having modeled your behavior across weeks or months or years, calculated that this title, with these words arranged in this order, with this thumbnail presented at this moment in your session, had a higher probability of receiving your click than the alternatives it might have shown you instead. It was, in the technical sense, a prediction, and it was correct, which means the model of you that exists in a data center somewhere is accurate enough to have predicted something you thought was a spontaneous decision. That's not conspiracy. That's not dystopia. That's just math applied at scale to a species that evolved before math existed. And here's what you do with that. You keep watching, or you don't. You scroll to the next thing, or you put the phone down for an hour and notice what that feels like. Notice if it feels like relief or discomfort, or a strange low-grade anxiety that you can't attribute to anything specific. That anxiety, if you feel it, has a name. It's called withdrawal from intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes slot machines compelling. It's the same mechanism that makes it hard to leave a conversation that's going badly, because what if the next exchange is the one where it gets better? You already know what you're going to do next. The model knows too. That's how it works. Somewhere right now, someone else is at exactly the point you were 3 minutes ago, hovering over a thumbnail, feeling the pull, not knowing why, clicking, and the machine, patient and cold and spectacularly indifferent to what's good for them, is waiting.